for my August reading wrap up. I'm also going to throw in my monthly book haul into this video because I did a really great job in August and I only bought 8 books. So there was no point in making that a whole video, but welcome to today's video. We're just going to do a book wrap up for the month of August. August is always so bittersweet. I love summer. I love reading in the summer. Summer reading is actually like my favorite vibe of mood reading because I'm reading outside, I'm reading on water, I'm reading underneath the sun, I'm reading on grass and by the pool and on patios, and I just have a book in my bag and I'm out the door. Like it just hits different, and I think because of that I was able to read so many fun books this summer that all had such summery vibes and elements and emotions that I will always look at that book now and picture myself where I read it or feel like it's summer just by looking at that book. So I guess I should hold up the books to show you. Come on, this is a booktube video. These are all the books that I read in August, and then off to the side, this is my book haul of all the books that I have acquired in August as well. Now that summer's over, I think I'm going to be able to catch up and get these videos up earlier in the month, which is great, but if you want to see them more live time, I've already posted this on my TikTok, so definitely follow me over on my booktok account, as well as my Instagram and bookstagram page. So if you like book content, I've got a bookstagram, this booktube, booktok, Goodreads, and all of these and more are also over on my Amazon storefront. I know that sometimes Amazon has really good book deals. I totally get it if you'd rather order books from Amazon, but I also do encourage you to shop locally at independent bookstores, thrifting, shopping locally, and all of that. If you're new to my channel though, please subscribe. I make a ton of book videos. I'm going to leave my booktube playlist down below so you can check them all out. And if you like lifestyle vlogs and other types of content, I also post that as well. I think that's all I have to mention, which is good because I really just want to talk books. I want to talk about these in the order that I read them in. I read 7 books in the month of August. I have 2 romances, 3 thrillers, 1 memoir, and 1 super spicy book. So let's talk about them. I also want to start sharing some specific stats because I think they're fun. So I've been using Storygraph. One of my book friends introduced me to the app Storygraph, and I love Goodreads, but I also love Storygraph because it goes even deeper and provides so many more charts and stats and like pie graphs to show you what type of reader you are. So highly recommend Storygraph as well. You can also import your Goodreads data to Storygraph so you don't have to enter everything over again. You just like start where you left off, if that makes sense, and then you enter it manually from there. I wish this were an ad. Honestly, Storygraph, reach out. But looking at my August reading stats, I read 7 books, like I said, 2,600 pages. My average time to finish a book was 4 days, but typically because I read books in 2 days and then I don't read a book while I'm digesting what I've read before choosing another book. My top moods for book reading this month were funny, emotional, dark, and tense. My average pace was a medium pace, and then most of my books were under 500 pages and 1 book was over 500 pages, and then most of them, like I said, were fiction, 1 was nonfiction. Top genres were thriller, contemporary, romance. My average rating for the month was 3.57. Really cool. I love all of these stats. It's super fun. It just scratches a part in my brain. Sorry for the little ramble. Let's talk about these books. The first book that I read in August was Elsie Silver's Flawless. This is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series, and honestly, I read this right after reading Wild Love, and I think that was a mistake because I loved Wild Love so much that going back to read the first book in a series that she's already written, I feel like she was still developing her style as a writer and her characters and everything, because it feels like Wild Love was the best work. That being said though, this book was still good. I just wasn't invested as much as I was in Wild Love. Maybe it was the plot, maybe it was the characters, I don't know. It was good, but Wild Love was so much better. I definitely can't wait to read the rest of the series though. Like, I still really liked it. I'm here for the yeehaw. I love the cowboy romance and all of that, but I just wasn't as invested as I was with Wild Love. I did just order the second book in the series though, so I'm really excited to finish it because I hear that the second book is a lot of people's favorites. I do feel like I have to read the whole series before I can judge this, but if you're looking for a country cowboy grumpy like romance close proximity type of romance book. I know everybody's talking about this book, but they're talking about it for a reason. Like, I love Elsie Silver and I am one of her newer fans this year. I'm so glad that I discovered her as an author this year. But yeah, I think I rated this book 3 stars because I gave Wild Love 4 stars, and since I liked Wild Love more, I had to put this down a star. So 3 stars, but still a very decent romance read. At this point, I feel like I needed a break from romances because I read a ton in July, so I moved over to thrillers and I read Lisa Jewell's The Girls in the Garden. I love Lisa Jewell. I think she's a great thriller writer. I love the way that she kind of like molds a web of a plot, and she has so many pieces going on, but it never feels overwhelming and everything has a purpose, if that makes sense. I would recommend some of her other books before this one. The ending just kind of fell flat for me, and I did guess a big part of it, which never like feels good when you're reading a thriller, but that's on me. The blurb on the cover though says that this is a beach read on a dark side, and I completely agree with that. So this was such a great summertime thriller. It takes place in a quiet cul-de-sac town. Basically, they're having like a block party in the summertime, and then this one girl ends up bloody unconscious in the garden around like 10 p.m. or midnight, and you're unraveling the mystery as to how she ended up there, who did it, what happened. There's a lot of like teenagers and kids that live in this neighborhood that all kind of like play a part in this plot, and just like that nosy, small, quiet neighborhood vibe where everybody has some sort of past and feels a little bit guilty. I think this is my 4th Lisa Jewell book that I've read this year, so at this point I might just pick up on what she's putting down in terms of like hints, and maybe that's why I guessed it. I don't know, but she has a lot of other books that I'm still going to read that I'm really excited to try. This one just, it was good for what it was, but I don't think it's one of my favorites by her. I think I also gave this book 3 stars. I picked up Anna Kendrick's memoir, Scrappy Little Nobody, this month. Look at the back. I love this. I love Anna Kendrick. I think she's so funny, breath of fresh air in the entertainment industry, and I love reading memoirs, especially any type of memoir that talks about like a struggle to success or just shares like how somebody of such status like got there. I find it so motivational, inspirational, and really like makes it even more relatable in a sense of like they're just like us. Like more than the tabloid magazines that show somebody grocery shopping being like celebrities, they're just like us. No, like read a memoir, celebrities, they're just like us. Also, every single page, like this is her voice. There's no way she had a ghostwriter because I can just hear her voice so well throughout this. It was really cool. I liked her style of writing. It's kind of in like short story format, so it kind of bounces around a little bit depending on the topic. I learned a lot more about like how she got into the industry and her first couple of years performing on Broadway, and that was really eye-opening because as a kid that is seen as something like so shiny and cool, like being in the spotlight and like being a star on a stage as like a 10-year-old kid, but then looking at it as an adult and everything that like she missed, or like the things that her parents had to do, or how she was literally performing 2 shows a day 7 days a week as a 10-year-old in New York City, and how she had the moment where she was like, I really need a day off, and she tried to get one and the director was like, we can't let you, like how about next weekend? Like you look at things very differently. And I love learning about things that aren't necessarily like shared in the entertainment industry, and like financially how hard her first few years of success were when everybody assumed she was well off, but like because of everything that she needed to like invest in as a new actress, like it's wild. This has nothing to do with the book, but I loved the inside like pattern. It was cute, it was quirky, it was funny. I loved hearing her voice, and if you need a decent, well-written celebrity memoir, I would recommend Scrappy Little Nobody. I found this book at Goodwill and I've seen so many copies of it since, so definitely check out a local thrift store because I feel like I see a lot of memoirs there if you're looking for this book. I gave this book 4 stars, I think, but rating memoirs is very difficult, so take that with a grain of salt. This next book, I am ashamed by how much I liked it. It took me by surprise, and I don't know why I picked it up. I didn't know what it was about, but I read this in 2 sittings. It was really, really good, and I know I'm in the minority here because it has such low ratings on Goodreads, and I don't know why. I rated this next one 4 stars, and I thought it was a hoot. The Juliet Society by Sasha Grey. This was such a cool plot. I found it to be really well written in a style that I've never really seen done before, and I think that alone is one of the reasons why I got lower ratings on Goodreads, but I found it to be similar to like Virginia Woolf's style of stream of consciousness writing, and a lot of the plot in here is just in her mind, which is very Virginia Woolf coded, and Virginia Woolf is one of my favorite like classic literature authors. Basically, the Juliet Society though is following this college student as she discovers the Juliet Society, which is the super elite wealthy status where like the wealthiest of wealthiest, most important people are part of the secret society. They meet in different places and it's so discreet, so hard to discover. You don't know it unless you're in it, and it is basically one big spicy get together, and the reason they do this is to keep it within the society so nobody else hears about a certain like person of certain status, blah blah blah. So there is a very spicy element. This book is so freaking spicy, but like not in like a smut way, and most of it is like fantasized or imagined, but it's done in a way where like I would dissect this in an English literature class. Like I had so much fun reading this. There's also a lot of themes throughout this book about like a good book doesn't have a good plot, it has good characters or character development, or leaving like inhibitions at the door and judgments, and just like the way it's written, it's so freaking good. And I think this is a trilogy or it's a series, so I will be reading the rest of them. Now look, I know this book is not for everyone, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should read this book. I think if you think you'll enjoy this book for what it is, you will like it, but I feel like a lot of people picked this up and rated it on Goodreads without knowing what it was, and that's why they were like, what did I just read? So if this sounds like something that you would enjoy, definitely check it out, and if it doesn't, you don't have to read it. But I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It deserved 5, but yeah, it was great. Okay, I have 2 more thrillers. I have Riley Sager's Middle of the Night. I'm so glad that I got to this book this summer because this is a summer thriller. It takes place in July. You can feel the summer heat. You can hear the crickets. You feel like you're camping in a tent. Like, it has summer elements in here that make summer feel so alive. So I do recommend reading this in the summer. I'm sorry I'm getting this to you so late in the season, but this came out in June. I got a signed copy around my birthday and it was such a fun ride. I gave this book, I think, 3 or 4 stars because of the ending. It left me super disappointed and kind of sad. I feel like I've talked about this plot a lot, but basically Middle of the Night is about 2 boys that were sleeping in a tent in a backyard, and again, a quiet cul-de-sac in New Jersey. In the middle of the night, somebody slashes the tent open, and in the morning, Billy is gone. He was kidnapped, taken out of the tent, missing for 30 years. Nobody knows who took this boy, what happened. Ethan has so much guilt and trauma that he lives with because he slept through it in the tent, and he is the only witness and he was asleep, and everybody is like, you know, begging him to remember, and he doesn't because he was sleeping in this tent. It time hops between that night in the 80s and then present day when Ethan is back home in this cul-de-sac, and a lot of the kids that live there who are now adults are back in the cul-de-sac, and you start to piece together what really happened and things start to fall into place. One thing about this book is I could not read this in the middle of the night. It was so freaking spooky. So many things started to happen where I was like, as soon as I read it, I was like, okay, I'm done, because I'm terrified. I had to read this in the day. Riley Sager is so good at writing spooky mysteries and thrillers. I read The House Across the Lake last fall, so I knew what elements he put into that book, and I was sort of expecting similar plot twists or elements in this book. So that's the only reason why I feel like he could have taken this plot in so many cooler directions, and I felt like he was dropping all of these little hints that he was going to do it, and then toward the end, the truth of what really happened just... I mean, it's a missing child, so no matter what, it's like gonna be sad, but I just feel like he could have taken this in a lot more different directions than he did, but it was still a book that I would recommend. I just feel like it left me a little sad. Yeah. Okay. The next thriller that I read was Sally Hepworth's newest release this spring or summer. I think it came out in June. Darling Girls. This was my first Sally Hepworth book and it was so good. I think I gave this book 4 stars. Again, I feel like I've talked about this plot a lot, but the story follows 3 foster sisters that grew up in this home. It also time hops between their years in their foster home as well as adults, because as adults they are notified that the house they grew up in was torn down and there was a body discovered underneath the swimming pool. Nobody knows who this body belongs to or what happened, and so the girls are brought in for questioning and they start to figure out the mystery as to what happened to this body and how it got there, and just the abuse and situations they were put in as children. There's a lot at play here. I loved all 3 characters that you follow. I also like that there was a queer character in here, and right away you are just invested in these girls and you want to know what happened. It's so sad, and once the story starts to come together, it is sadder. You know, you kind of have that feeling because it does deal with like the foster care system and abuse and stuff like that, and it's a thriller though, so you feel like it's going to be gripping, and it is, but once you figure out more about like the body and what happened and the truth, it's hard to read about. So that is my very, very vague slight trigger warning that it's just kind of heavy in some parts. But I read this in 2 days, like 2 sittings, one day at my pool and one day the next night on my balcony. I could not put it down. You will fly through this book. I also love that this book has short chapters. I think that's a big reason why I read it so quickly, because I was able to read, I don't know, I prefer short chapters, so I liked that a lot. I'm definitely going to check out Sally Hepworth's other books now that I've read this. I like her writing a lot. Slight question about her editor though, and Goodreads, so many reviews are about it, so I'm glad it wasn't just me. Maybe it's just my edition, I don't know. There were so many typos in here that I started to gaslit myself into thinking that like it was actually a word, even though it would be like DTSX like at the end of the word, just like as if a cat just like sat on a keyboard screen. But I thought, you know, maybe it was intentional, I don't know. And then I looked at Goodreads and a lot of other people were talking about her editor and all of that. That is not reflected on the plot or the book or Sally Hepworth. It's more so on the publishing side. But I like this book a lot. It was a great summer thriller and I would highly recommend it. Okay, I have 1 book left. The last book that I read in August was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This was also my first Lauren Asher book, and I'm not sure what to think about her writing or her as an author, because I don't think this book was for me. I couldn't get into it. I had such a hard time like caring about the characters. I just wasn't as invested as I thought I was about to be. And I will be honest, I only read this book so I could get to Love Unwritten, which is the 2nd book in this series. I know you don't have to read it in order, but like if there's a series, even if it's like a standalone series, I'm still going to read them all. I also was really confused as to like what the main plot even was, because I thought she was like an interior designer. I thought they were going to renovate a house together, and the small pieces and parts that they talked about this house were super interesting, but it wasn't a big part of the plot. Like they literally flip houses for a living, and I barely got to see any of that, and I would have loved more of that plot. Yeah, I just had such a hard time getting into it. But if you like a slow burn, I don't think they do anything, not even kiss, until like here. Like, I don't know what was going on in this book. So I'm so sorry if you enjoyed this book. I think I'm just missing something, but it just wasn't for me. I couldn't get into it. I will say I am reading Love Unwritten right now, and I do enjoy that one a lot. And I feel like that is the consensus that I hear a lot online. People have said that Love Unwritten was so much better, or it was their favorite, or they liked that one more. So I also am starting to agree with that. I'm not sure how amazing it will be, and I don't like to bash on books. I'm not bashing on books. I just don't think this one is one that I would recommend off the bat, or one that I really enjoyed. When I got to the chapter though, where they introduce the 2 characters in the 2nd book, I really did like that, and for some reason I was already like invested into that. So maybe the 2nd book's characters are just easier to get invested into. Maybe her writing like improved. I don't know. But yeah, it's not a bad book. I just was kind of bored. But I'll talk more about the second book, Love Unwritten, in next month's wrap up. Those are the 7 books that I read in August though. Overall, it was still a great month. Lots of thrillers, lots of new authors for me. I think my favorite would have to be Darling Girls, and then my least favorite would be Love Redesigned. But overall, still a great reading month, and I would recommend almost all of these books depending on the type of reader that you are. I'm gonna film my September TBR video soon, and I'm also going to do a huge fall must-read video where I include all of my fall books, spooky books, thriller books that I want to read this upcoming fall season, so be on the lookout for that. But I usually make a video each month of my monthly book haul. This month though, I only acquired 8 new books, so we're just going to talk about them in this video. I think this was my best, well, depends on what you mean by best, but out of every single month the last like year, I think this is the least amount of books that I bought, which is good because my TBR list is ginormous. And I only have 3 categories this month. I have from publishers, free little libraries, and Goodwill. Here are the 8 books that I got this month. The first category is from publishers. I received 1 ARC this month from HarperCollins. It is the ARC Buried Road by Katie Tallow. This comes out in December, so it won't be out for a hot minute, but I am so grateful for this copy. So thank you, Katie, and thank you, HarperCollins, for this advanced reader's copy. I am a little bit nervous that this is the 3rd book in a series. Hey, Marnie. Because on the back, it's referred to as the follow-up. It's the follow-up to the best-selling Dark August. So if this is a follow-up, I should read the other ones first. But either way, I love a good thriller. I love a good mystery. Be on the lookout for this upcoming winter. Usually in these book haul videos, I always share how much I spent on each book as well as the total at the end. So far we are at $0 spent because this was a gift. Again, thank you, HarperCollins. The next 2 are from Little Free Libraries. It's actually from my partner Ashton's Little Free Library at his apartment. I love that his place has a library there. I found 2 old vintage books there, and I don't know yet if I'm going to put these into my personal collection, or I was thinking of somehow doing like a blind date with a antique vintage book. I don't know what that would look like though for Moonlit Vintage, which is my antique store. If you were to go to like an antique store, these books are usually like $1, and I don't want to like upcharge these if I did blind dates with a book because they would be really old. But if you're a collector and you like these, it might be fun. I don't know, just a thought. I'm already attached to these books though. Well, this one is only from the 50s, so it's not too old. What I loved about these 2 books though is that they're both signed on the inside by Denise. This one is called The Year with Ross. I think it's a children's book. And then this one's also a children's book, and it is also signed Denise at the top. This one has really fun illustrations. It's called The Middle-Aged Man on the Flying Trapeze. And this is a first edition. No, wait, no, it's not. It's a second edition published in 1946. This one has such cool little fun drawings in it. I do love old books like this, and I collect early editions, so these will fit right in. Again, these were free because they were from the Little Free Library. I also thrifted 7 books this month. I have 5 hardcovers and 2 paperbacks. I found Mindy Kaling's memoir, Why Not Me? I also have this Minnesota State Park book, which I really would have loved to have this summer. I love going to state parks up north, and this is all in like alphabetical order with like information on parking and how to get there and miles and all of that. So really, really helpful. I will definitely be using this book, and it's gonna be cool. I want to start crossing off like all the ones that I've been to as well, because I've been to a lot. Yeah, I love this, and I love Minnesota books. I have a whole category at home of all of the local books on Minnesota, especially Minnesota history. I like knowing that stuff. I found Courtney Robertson from the Bachelor franchise, her memoir, I Didn't Come Here to Make Friends. She was a villain on her season. Either way, I've been wanting to read this for a while, so I'm so glad that I found it. I picked it up right away. It's gonna be good. I also found a hardcover copy of One Italian Summer. I did just read this book, and I do own the paperback, but my paperback has tabs in it. It has highlighting, it has underlining, it has very personal touches to it, and I loved that book so much that I wanted to have the hardcover copy as well, because look at how pretty this is with the gold reflecting. I also wanted a copy that I would feel comfortable loaning out to people, because I would give them my copy, but like I said, it has so much in it with like tabbing and highlighting that if they just wanted like a blank copy without all of my feelings in there, I would give them this book. Like, I'll probably give this to my mom to read and anybody else in my life that wants a copy to read it. But yeah, when I really, really, really love a book, I will have different versions of it. And I also couldn't believe that I found this at Goodwill, so I had to get it. I also found A Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep. I feel like this was a pretty popular book when it came out, and I have yet to read it, so I don't know, maybe I'll learn something out of it. We'll see. I also found The House of Broken Angels, and this was a Pulitzer Prize finalist. I was not going to get this book. I like to check the publication dates of books like this that I don't recognize to see if it's like a newer release or if it's been around for a while. And when I did that in Goodwill to figure out when this book came out, I saw that it was signed. This is signed. Signed copy of a Pulitzer Prize finalist book, like at Goodwill. I couldn't believe it, so I had to get it. I'm going to read it. I value signed books so much. I think it's so personal and cool. Maybe someday will be worth something, but I'm also the type of collector that could like never get rid of something that's worth something. But I want to have a whole section in a home library someday where the whole shelf is just all of my signed copies. Really, really cool find at Goodwill. And then the last book that I found at Goodwill was Florence Adler Swims Forever. I've heard a lot about this book, so I'm really excited to read it. And again, could not believe that I found it at Goodwill. Everyone has said such amazing things about this book, and I think the cover is beautiful as well. So for the 7 books that I got at Goodwill, 5 of them were hardcovers, which are $2.99 each. 2 paperbacks. Paperbacks are $1.99 each. It was hard to break down the total of these because I got other things on the receipt as well. But just adding these up and then adding a little bit for tax as well as rounding up, because I did that as well that night, these were about $20 total, which seems like a lot, honestly, but it's because of the hardcovers. And that's also the total that I spent on books this month, 20 bucks. I have never had a month where I have spent that low amount of books, but these are all the books that I got in August, and my total was $20. I will say it is September 4th, I believe, when I'm filming this, and I have already bought 4 brand new books, so guess I'll see you for the September book haul. But it's gonna be good. I got some new releases. Those were the books that I read in August, and those were the books that I have bought or acquired or found in the month of August. Definitely let me know your thoughts on any of the books mentioned. I'll be posting my September TBR and my fall TBR book recs soon, so definitely stay tuned and subscribed if you are not. And if you're into it, follow me on my book Instagram page as well as my book TikTok and all of that. But I'll see you real soon in my next video.